Sid Seixeiro joins us. Sydney, welcome to your show.
It's great to be on my show. Great job with Van Vliet yesterday, by the way, boys. That was nice. I would have ruined it. Fantastic interview for both of you. Tim, that clip you just ran, the visual of him warming up, which is all over the place today. I just heard an interview done by, not an interview, but Gary Lineker. For those who don't remember Gary Lineker was one of the greatest English strikers ever and was on the field in Mexico 86, basically when the hand of God happened and the other goal 4 minutes later. Gary Lineker now is running the Champions League coverage at BT Sport in Britain. So it's like the biggest show in Britain. And it was so funny to watch Rio Ferdinand and these analysts just asking him the questions just now on air. And one of the stories Lineker told was he was at a charity game at Wembley Stadium. And it's like the best of like Van Basten, the best players of that era. But everyone's in awe at Maradona. Because Maradona's club career, when he left Napoli in 91, he only played 61 more games. It was like Jim Brown. It kind of just ended for a lot of reasons, Tim, that you went into. But he said they came out for the match, and that video we just ran where he hammered the ball, Tim, at midfield, and then it came right down. Do you remember that part of the video?
Yeah.
Gary Lineker said...
On his foot.
On his foot. He said the craziest thing he's ever seen in soccer. It wasn't the hand of God. It wasn't that other goal to make it 2-0 Argentina over England in the quarterfinal in 86. Maradona went to midfield, and he did that. He hammered it as hard as he could. It went straight up. It would come straight down. He never moved more than 3 feet. He did it 13 straight times. And he said he went back. Gary Lineker was on Barcelona at the time. He went back to the new camp. He said some of the best players on earth tried it. The most they could do was 3, and on the third, like they were struggling, like they were not 3 feet from where they started, right? Like they had to recover. So just the little, like you're hearing stories like that constantly today from guys who were on the field. And Tim, I got to be honest with you, this is like we talk a lot about our guys on this show. Like Walter Payton is a Tim McAuliffe guy. I know that. Basically every Oiler from the 80s is both our guys. Like Donovan's told me his guys, but quite frankly, I wasn't listening, so I don't know who his guys are. But we'll get to that in a second.
Emmitt Smith?
Emmitt Smith, yes, Emmitt Smith. Separated shoulder, ran for like 200 yards that night. What a night. But when I think of Maradona to me got me to love soccer. Because I'm sitting on the floor of my parents' living room in 1986 when CBC had World Cup rights in this country. That was a long time ago. But the CBC had them. And it was that World Cup, that legendary World Cup. And he was almost as good against Belgium in the semi the next game than he was against England. Kids, go back. Take a look. But Maradona, to me, I was sad today for a lot of reasons. But the biggest reason was he made me love soccer. He gave me that gift. And you knew the day was coming. He didn't leave clean. We all know the stories. I'm happy he hit 60. He just turned 60 years old last month. Yeah. Let's remember that. There was a point you didn't know if he'd hit 45. And I'm not kidding when I say that. So I think today is, today's as much about celebration as it is losing a legend like this. But this is, he's the greatest soccer player to ever do it. Look at the resume. Look at the highlights. Look at the national team resume, not just the club resume, the national team resume. And I don't necessarily want to start here, guys. We can jump in wherever, but you're also kind of seeing the Pelé thing. And the one thing I'll never forget about Maradona was he did not care to play the role of heel. He did not care if you liked him. He did not care if he was Razor Ramon and the bad guy. He didn't care. He could care less. He stood up to Pelé. He stood up to, you mentioned the Barcelona days, Tim. He left under bad circumstances. It just wasn't a fit, and he wasn't afraid to tell people when things weren't going his way. He made you choose because he knew how good he was. I mean, that's why he left Napoli, Tim. In 1990, in the World Cup semifinal, it was a Tuesday night. Italy, who are hosting the tournament, are taking on Argentina in Napoli. So you have Diego Maradona and his Argentinian team in a place that he owns. Every second baby, male or female, is called Diego in Napoli. He owns that place.
Yeah.
The murals, you've been seeing them all online today. Like, he still owns that town. So Diego Maradona, knowing full well Argentina's not going to be rooted for heavily in Napoli the next night, says in a paper, look, For 364 days of the year, Italy treats you like you are a foreigner in your own country, except for the one day they need you. Back me. Back me tomorrow night. The whole thing blew. Not only did Maradona not get backed, Argentina won that night. Things got a little off, let's just say. And that's where the relationship ended. But Maradona, that's what I also respect about him. He didn't care what you thought, and he wanted you on his side, or his way or the highway. And it was like that with defenders. It was like that with managers. It was like that with sporting directors. It was again, he didn't play long. It was very Jim Brownish.
It was 4 years basically of absolute brilliance that's got you saying he's the greatest of all time.
I'm so glad the guys were running those low angle lives of his Italian soccer days, because those are all over YouTube. You can see him. He's one of the greatest players ever, because he did something I've never seen a player do consistently. Tim, he'd chip a goalie from 7 yards out perfectly. He had no room. That's how you know he was the best. Because I've never seen Pele do that. I've never seen Messi do it. I've never seen Ronaldo do it. I've never seen fat Brazilian Ronaldo do it. I've never seen any of them do it. Diego Maradona on the ball.
Brazilian.
Haircut Brazilian. Sorry, yeah, it's different time. But he listen, he could have won another World Cup. He was 17 in 1978 when Argentina didn't pick him. They won that year. I'm not, obviously they made the right choices, and it was a pretty corrupt tournament, so they're going to win anyway. But Maradona could have won a tournament in 78, and then in 1990, that really dicey tournament in Italy where his relationship with the whole country went south. Could have won it there too. He should have 3 World Cups. 3. And those teams he played for at Napoli, Tim, and Argentina, they weren't great. They weren't the Barcelona teams of Xavi and the Spanish teams. They weren't the AC Milan teams of Paolo Maldini and those guys. Very different teams, Tim. That's why he's the best. He took ordinary to above ordinary talent and won trophy after trophy after trophy, and that's why he's a god. You mentioned earlier he's godlike status. No. Dieu est mort was the cover of L'Équipe that we ran. God is dead was their headline. One of the oldest sporting publications on earth. He is a god in soccer, and he made me love soccer, and today sucks. Today sucks, but he was amazing.
So I had like 7 questions for you, and you answered
time for Sarah Nurse. I'm sorry. I've used all the time. I'm sorry.
No, we can see your passion. It's fine. This is why we do the show. Literally, this is why we do the show.
Go ahead. No, I mean, we for the radio audience who didn't get to see it, we played the clip of him, doing keep ups with the Puma life on the feet, cleats untied. He's doing keep ups and dancing basically at the same time. But the football phrase, enjoying your football, like he literally like lived it to a T. I don't know if in our era is there like another example, because to me, and I didn't watch the tournament in '86 because I was 3 years old. But to me, it's like if you took Michael Jordan in his greatness and Dennis Rodman and his greatness in a wholly different way and made them one person, like that's kind of what you had as a football player. Have we ever seen anything in terms of like the force of personality that he was?
No. I don't think, and it wasn't all good, man. Like, let's be honest. This was no Ali political figure. He has Fidel Castro tattooed on his leg. Like there are elements to Diego I just do not agree with. Let's be clear about this. But in terms, I don't know who's the only guy I would bring up, and hear me out, is LeBron, just because he knows who he is. He's centered in who he is. If he feels it's the right decision, he'll make it. And he's taken bad teams to titles. Like Anthony Davis and him don't make it a great team. I don't know how good that Lakers team was. It just won. That's my first comp to that from a competitive standpoint. It's true to yourself, and you bring people on your back. You bring a nation on your back in Maradona's case, and you win. There's very few comps, Deej. It's an excellent question. I'd look at LeBron just because of the BS he had to face. But go ahead, Tim. You want to jump in on that?
Can I answer that with Mike Tyson? Because it's funny that I looked at Mike Tyson's tweet to Diego Maradona, and earlier today I was on a radio show and I made the comparison between Tyson and Maradona for this. And for me, these are things that I look at personally, but I think they showed, and I said this in that piece, both of them showed a vulnerability, a human, flawed individual that had the world by what everyone would deem its They had the world in the palm of their hands. How about that? That's the PG way of saying, and they couldn't do it.
For better or worse.
For better or worse, but they couldn't do it. And for me, it almost endeared Diego even more to Argentina. The fact that he was flawed, the fact that he was vulnerable, and the fact that he came from nothing, had everything, and lived life the same way.
Yeah. I mean, you were never going to get it out of him. Like he came from the slums of Buenos Aires. You kind of had the feeling this is not a new story. Guy comes from nothing, one of the best we've ever seen, the entrapments of fame and the drugs and the sex and everything that comes with that. When you're a god, you either handle it in very, very unique ways, or you're Diego. And it's not a new story. Again, we've seen this before. You can almost call this. He was too big, Tim. You're right. He was that level. But I got to say, man, that it was that fighting mentality on the pitch that made him great. Unfortunately, he couldn't fight enough off it to ward off those demons. But Tim, I'm going through some of the things today. He still holds the record for most times fouled in a World Cup. It happened in '86. And he still holds the single game record for getting your ass kicked in a World Cup. It was Italy in '82. Look at that video online. It is a mauling when he was like the new kid on the block, like they're trying to teach him a lesson. We could go for 3 hours on this. Forgive me. Go ahead.
Right. I was just going to say in that '86 World Cup, to further your point, he played every minute of every match.
Yeah, he had to.
He was fouled more than anyone ever, and he played every. All right, last word, because I can tell.
Okay, we got to go.
And no, to you, Sid Seixeiro, because this is your guy, and we live for these moments. And as much as we are hosts of shows like this, the one thing that I think makes us different, Donovan included in this, is that we love sports, and you can tell. So I'm going to give you your last word on a reason why you love sports.
He was unlike any player you've ever seen in your life. The way he attacked the ball, the way he skipped, didn't beat, he skipped by defenders, and you ran it a bit in that 2-0 goal against England. Still can't believe they didn't foul him, but whatever. The way he scored, Tim, he wasn't like a winger like Ronaldo and Messi, right? Like he's your normal. Back then. He is a central mid. He scored 37 times in 91 games for Argentina from that position. That is unheard of back then and basically now. I love sports, and I love Diego Maradona, and I always say he's the greatest player of all time because you just saw stuff from him you didn't see from anyone else. It wasn't close. He was a short dude, but a giant. These visuals from Azteca in Mexico City, it was a coronation, and you don't see moments like that in sports anymore. And those are the things burned into my head. Now, as a kid growing up, that helps, right? Our youth is shaped around sports and those types of memories, so they hold a special place in our hearts. But I'm going to ignore the bad stuff with Diego. It's easy for me to do, and it's easy for us as humans to do sometimes. But for this conversation, for the next 24 hours, and when I watch that doc again later tonight, and I encourage everyone to do so, it's great, the latest one that came out, I'm going to remember him as the greatest player of all time. And he gave me the gift of loving soccer. Thank you.